Hello, my name is S.K. Williams, and I welcome you to the Bishop's Bible Project, which I will be restarting on the 1st of March. However, I am going to begin a new introductory cycle, and I don't count this as the 4th time I've started the project. Rather, it's still the 3rd, because I'm not completely starting over. Rather, I'm going to use December to create 3 new introductory videos, as well as to finish presenting the original Bishop's Bible videos that I made without modification. This is largely because I can't actually manage the project like I want, at least for now. You see, I had either forgotten, or else this is a new feature that was added on, that when you create a new channel, you have to go through a staged verification of it. And while the first 2 stages have been completed, I have yet to complete the 3rd, which will be completed in one of 3 ways. I either make a 6-second video of myself, which I'm not planning to do, or I show some sort of ID or link the system to an ID, or I simply continue to post videos to show that it is an authentic account. And until I do that, I am limited to 10 video uploads a day. Considering that this channel exists solely so that I could record an audiobook version of the Bishop's Bible of 1568. And considering the fact that I only have internet access for 2 or 3 days out of the week, because I'm taking care of a house in a remote area that does not have internet access, and I get internet access when I visit with my mother, so I can do things like check email and check the news online and things like that. It is impractical to think I could maintain the project as I had originally desired to do so. Because I originally intended to release 3 chapters a day of the Bishop's Bible, with a psalm from the Great Bible, which was added to the Bishop's Bible every Saturday. But in order to accomplish that, I probably should have opened this channel around October, and for the first 2 or 3 months loaded videos explaining the Bishop's Bible, or perhaps loading the chapters that I had already completed in terms of the original release, which is what I ended up doing for content when I thought I had missed the New Year's release. But to be honest, this was my fault, because I just simply did not remember or did not know that these would be the requirements. However, starting the 3rd iteration again in March does have an appropriateness to it. I could also start it in April and have an appropriateness to it, or for that matter, begin it on the 25th of March. You see, New Year's Day in England in 1568 was actually celebrated on the 25th of March rather than on the 1st of January. And it had been celebrated on the 25th of March since the Middle Ages, at least. And that's because in the Kingdom of England, they celebrated the New Year at the time of the Feast of the Annunciation. And most people measured time by season more than on calendar date anyway, and it wasn't something that they thought was important to have it on the first day of a month. Of course, it seems discongruent to us. And I would rather begin it on the first day of a month because, well, I do live in the modern world. However, if I were to begin this project in terms of releasing the actual Bishop's Bible videos on the 25th of March, it would mean that I would launch the first chapters of the books of Genesis on New Year's Day as it was celebrated in 1568. But I'm planning on doing it on the first day of March, which is technically before the new year. Because it's either that or start it on the 1st of April, which is the closest proximate to the 25th of March. That is still the first day of the month. But if February and March both begin on a Sunday, so it's more appropriate. However, I won't have the restrictions lifted during February, or maybe I will. I'll probably have the restrictions lifted sometime in February if I keep loading videos, which is why I'll have a lot of top-loaded introductory material that I did not intend to make throughout February, and close to the end of February, I will produce 3 new and hopefully better introductions to the Bishop's Bible. But I still consider all of this the third effort to get this loaded because I haven't stopped trying, and this isn't some new effort, it's just extra material and delay. It could also play very well because I've loaded the first 15 chapters of the book of Genesis already. And this way, it doesn't seem like I'm repeating it too often. And the reason I've chosen March 1st, like I said, is because March 1st of 2026 falls on a Sunday. And I would have to wait until November to have that again. And I want the first chapter of the book of Genesis to be on a Sunday, and I want it to be before I begin the Great Bible Psalms, which means I could have released them in February as well, except for the restrictions, which I'm hoping are lifted by the time that I get to March. But this particular update video, which, by the way, is made on worse equipment than I normally use, with apologies, is simply to let people know that the project is coming along, but it's had these delays that were unavoidable, but I'm hoping to begin on the 1st of March. But come hell or high water, I will get this project done this time, because it does mean something to me. And I'm intending on releasing it on other platforms, besides just the Tube of You. I will be releasing it on Ramble, and eventually on the Shoot a Bit, and I may even create a Motion Daily release for this. But having said all of that, I apologize for the delay, and I apologize for the bad quality of the audio here. But I am trucking along, and I'm hoping that when the project really gets started, it will be something to appreciate. But until then, I don't have much else to say. At least for now. But I will be back. And when I return, I'll have more introductory material, and hopefully the lock will be removed from my channel. Having said that, I do intend on releasing the first 12 of the Great Bible Psalms. This is because when I began recording the Great Bible Psalms, I knew that it would be related to the Bishop's Bible, but I didn't have a uniform way of introducing them. And I later edited them in a conspicuous way, intentionally. The audio quality sounds different, and I used a still image that was altered using Desgo to make it look different. I made no effort to try and blend these things together to make it look natural, because I want to honor the past with this project, and that includes honoring the past of my own work. But I still wanted the introduction of the official release to follow the same uniform introduction. Normally, when I introduce a psalm, I would introduce it as Psalm Number. From the Great Bible. Presented for the Bishop's Bible. However, I only began doing that at the 13th Psalm. The first 12 Psalms were not all uniform, but they didn't say that. So I added things like presented for the Bishop's Bible, so that the introduction would align better with the way it is from 13 onward. But I still have the original 12, and I will be presenting them on this channel as a sort of bonus. I've already released the first 15 chapters of the Book of Genesis that I did before my house burned down. And when I was dressing the cartoon bishop version of myself with a mitre from clip art instead of one that I somewhat created myself. And I think that I'll describe how I created all of these things in a future video just to give myself more content while waiting, but the first 15 chapters of the Book of Genesis do seem like a fitting way of beginning the project, because I later went back and edited those videos to add the new mitre to them. I still have myself wearing the old one. It's largely just in the background, but it is there, so it is present in all the videos. And I made a few other modifications. So presenting the first 15 chapters of the Book of Genesis in the old style does make a fitting thing for this channel, because it is part of the history of the project. And so are the first 12 Psalms in their original formation. So I'm planning on releasing those. However, there are 12 of them, and I can only load 10 videos. So I've broken them down, and for the first week, I'm going to present the first 6, starting on the 1st of February, and beginning on Sunday and ending on Friday, like I normally would with the Great Bible chapters. This isn't how the Psalms are normally going to be presented. They are normally going to be presented once a week, on Saturdays. But this, while the original version of these Psalms are not the official version of them that I will be using for this project. They will, of course, be included in the project, and I always intended to include them, but I was expecting them to be supplemental material added later, during the wrap-up. But introducing them now also seems fitting, because they were created first. So, starting on the 1st of February, after you receive this particular update video that explains the situation, you will also be getting the first Psalm. And for the first 6 days, you will receive the first 6 Psalms. And that will be a total of 7 videos. And then next week I will upload the other 6 Psalms, and perhaps 1 or 2 more videos to go along with it. This is because, realistically, while visiting my mother, I will have internet access for 2 or 3 days, which at best means I could load 20 videos, 1 on the first day and 1 on the second. I will be leaving on the 3rd before the full 24 hours for the upload schedule winds down, So 20 videos will be my maximum. But this week, because of the ice storms, I'm having to go back to the house I'm taking care of. Because I will be needed in case something happens during the storms. I will be needed to turn the waters on to drip. This way the pipes won't freeze. I'm going to be needed to force a cat to go into a storage shed which is heated so the cat does not freeze to death, because the cat doesn't like being confined. She is an outside cat. I have other duties that I have to perform. It was warm enough to come to my mother's this week, but I'm only staying for one day, so I can only load 10 videos. So I've decided to load the first 6 Psalms and this explanation, which I also created using inferior software. And hopefully, unless the weather is so bad that I can't get to my mother's, next week I will load the second 6. However, there is an ice storm expected and I don't know the road conditions. And I can't drive myself. So, realistically, I will only be here if the road conditions are safe enough. If not, then the first 6 of the first 12 Psalms will be loaded from the 1st of February to the 6th. And there will be a pause before the 7th, 8th, 9th, and so on get loaded. But my hope is that, at the very least, the first 6 Psalms will mirror the load schedule for the chapters of the Bishop's Bible going Sunday through Friday. And if I'm able to get here and load videos, then I can load the second 6 to also start on a Sunday and on a Friday. But if I do come here, I might instead decide to keep going. In which case, the first Psalm will be on the 1st day of February, the second Psalm will be on the 2nd day of February, and the third Psalm will be on the 3rd day of February, and so on until the 12th Psalm, which will be on the 12th day of February. But I'm not promising to do it that way because the weather conditions may hinder me. So for right now, I'm only planning on presenting the first 6 Psalms Monday through Friday, and then the second 6 Psalms at some other point Sunday through Friday. Hopefully the following week. But because of the weather, that can't be promised. But it's actually my hope to present the first 12 Psalms along the first 12 days of February. Having said all of this, I do apologize for the inordinate delays. I should have put more due diligence into this project and realized these problems would show up on the two of you. And I should have built this channel by opening it sometime in October or perhaps at the latest November, so that this 2-month probitiary period would have been over with. Of course, it's not really a 2-month probitiary period. Rather, according to the information that I read after I tried to load more than 10 videos, that's just the average amount of time it takes for your channel to be fully approved of. In reality, it depends on loading videos. If I just sat here for 2 months, my channel would never be approved. And I suppose this is a reasonable precaution because some people do open channels for fraudulent reasons or for marketing reasons or to have AI slop, which isn't my intention, but I can understand why these procedures exist. They don't want spam videos flooding the platform. At the same time, I'm not in a position to make the process go faster, so I'm simply going to have to rely on loading at least one video a week in the hopes that before the 1st of March, I will be able to load the entire book of Genesis and the entire book of Exodus so that I won't have to bother with that for a few weeks, and then the following week I'll load Leviticus and Numbers and maybe Deuteronomy. I can't realistically load the entire Old Testament because there are 936 videos for the Old Testament. That's 929 chapters for the Old Testament, plus a few supplementals. Which is, by the way, why I present 18 chapters a week. Because if you add it up, that would lead to 936. But realistically, if I only have 2 days and I want to visit my mother's during some of those days, and I want to check the news and my email and do other work, I can't just load 900 videos. That's just a bit much. I think that the system couldn't handle it either, and again, even once the restriction on 10 videos is loaded, I think that I'm only going to load 1 or 2 or perhaps 3 Bible books at a time. At least in terms of the ones that are of the normal or longer length. It may be that when it comes to shorter books, say books that have only 1 chapter, or 2 or 3 chapters, that I'll load more than just that 1 book. I might load 5 or 6 of those then. But I want to add to the description the text from the Bishop's Bible, and I want to actually schedule them nicely, so it's not really reasonable to try and do them all at once. But at the same time, it's not realistic to limit it to 10. Especially when I have 18 chapters a week. And it's not really a good idea to limit it to 20. Because even though it is possible for me to load 18 chapters a week by showing up at my mother's house on a Wednesday night, which is when I normally show up, and then spending that night while she's asleep, loading Bible videos, which in total would be 19. That would be 18 chapters of the Bishop's Bible and 1 great Bible psalm. It is entirely possible, even under restrictions, to do that, because I would be able to, for example, put 9 chapters of the Bishop's Bible up on Wednesday night and 9 chapters up on Thursday night, and schedule them for release Sunday through Friday. And I can put the Great Bible Psalm either on Wednesday night or Thursday night. The problem with doing this, though, is that I would be limited to loading videos up only 1 week in advance, or really just a few days in advance. Well, I suppose I could begin a couple of weeks earlier and give myself a little time. But if something goes wrong and I'm not able to get to my mother's, or I become ill, or the road conditions are bad, then that would create a gap in my schedule. And I don't really want to create too many gaps and interruptions for anyone who I may finally get to listen. Which may never happen either. This is a very niche project, and it may not actually have people who want to listen. But I still want to be consistent with it. So I want to at least have a few weeks in advance as a safeguard. And every week I come, I can load 2 or 3 weeks, and over time, provided nothing happens during the early stages, I would have enough of a buffer so that if something does happen, I can make it up more easily. And I can't do that with a limit of 10 videos a day, because I need 19 videos, and that would be the entire week. So I'm hoping the restrictions are lifted and I can load more than 10 videos, because this project really does necessitate that if I'm going to have a realistic expectation of a normal schedule. Still, I apologize for the delays. This project, as I said, has been cursed. Although I suppose you could blame this on my own incompetency, because I did not know what I would have to do to get this channel working. I've also neglected my new channel that I created as a replacement for my old channel for my commentary. But at least with that one, it's just going to be me giving commentary on various issues, and it can wait, and it's not like I have an audience over there. And I'm only going to load 2 or 3 videos at most a week anyway, so the 10 video limit is not much. It does hinder me from loading up holiday specials early, which I wanted to do this year. It does hinder me in case I want to do a batch of videos as just in case, because I sometimes do that. Videos that are scheduled to be released just in case something happens to me, they're already there in advance. But at the same time, it can wait. I have no viewers, no subscribers, so it can wait. The Bishop's Bible, by the nature of the project, it demands more attention right now. But having said all that, I don't really have much else that I need to tell you at the moment. So I will leave you until the next installment of the Bishop's Bible project.